Hi, I'm Katie, and I will be discussing the reading for this week titled Lost Ways of Unionism, Historical Perspectives on Reinventing the Labor Movement by Dorothy Cobble. I believe the main takeaway of this reading is the need for a reinvention of the labor movement through internal structural reform due to the changing nature of today's diverse and transitional workforce. This reinvention of the labor movement is what Cobble deems as institutional redesign, and it includes a more occupation-based form of unionism as well as one that considers the unique interests of the current workforce. Cobble argues that it's time to transition from the traditional one-size-fits-all approach to unionization to a structure that allows for a multitude of diverse and competing models of unions that suit a broader range of occupations. She supports her argument of fundamentally rebuilding the labor movement by drawing on two significantly different historical periods of unionism, utilizing aspects and concepts from each to compile a set of best practices for a new form of unionism. The first period was prior to the New Deal, during a time of craft unions and the involvement of the American Federation of Labor. It was in this period that workers gained rights on an occupational basis rather than by industry or employer basis. Cobble argues that a return to this form of unionism would be beneficial for today's workforce given its now transitional and mobile nature, as well as a tendency for workers to be horizontally aligned, so by occupation rather than by industry. Benefits of occupation-based unionism included job placement for members, employment security rather than just job security, and then transferable benefits and union membership as employees changed from job to job. Also, the American Federation of Labor represented non-employees, including those that were self-employed, which is a principle that would fit with today's workforce as more and more employees no longer fit the traditional mold and are not bound to a single employer. The second period revolved around women service workers in the 1930s and later and has relevance for the new labor movement as more and more individuals are choosing jobs in the service industry. Service workers have unique concerns when it comes to unions due to their particular industry. They need a form of unionization that will establish rules central to the customer-employee relationship rather than the employee-boss relationship, which is typical of other unions. And they also need more of a change in managerial control over appearance and personalities. The central theme of this article coincides with an idea within the article Working in America that we discussed earlier in the semester. The authors of Working in America also discuss the changing nature of what they call next generation unions in the United States, explaining the need for unions to begin reinventing themselves as a result of the changing labor force. That article notes the reemergence of occupation-centered labor organizations, much like the Lost Ways of Unionism reading, and it similarly explains that part of the reason for the necessary redesign of unions is due to the transitional nature of today's workforce, where, again, employees are no longer attached to a single employer for the duration of their careers. In conclusion, Cobble presents 4 best practices that should build the foundation of the redesigned model of unions. They include flexible membership boundaries that change as the work changes, occupationally and industry-structured unions, not just industry-structured unions. A third one was the economically empowered unions at each level of national, state, and local rather than just political. And then finally, a movement that caters to the diversity of the workforce that we have today. In order to better mold to the unique needs and structure of today's workers and the current labor market, it's necessary to redefine unionism utilizing successful practices and concepts from the past.